Hey there, and welcome to my look at The Flash by Mark Waid, Book 1, Part 1, The Flash Special, Issue Number 1. And this issue begins in Central City in the year 2645 AD with a newscaster covering the story of John Fox, a man about to use a tachyon device to travel through time in order to recruit three Flashes from across time in order to save them from a pending threat. The book then shifts to the first chapter titled Sow the Wind, where we see Garrick the Flash being summoned by the FBI in order to track down potential spies who may be a threat to national security. When looking at the list given to him, Jay sees both his name and a friend's of his, and he runs off to Keystone City. We then come to Garrick Labs, where we see Sam the janitor assisting a man by the name of Manfred Moda, also known as Atom Smasher, in stealing tech he needs to power his suit. Jay arrives shortly after and discovers his janitor had dropped a large sum of cash, which is also irradiated. When confronting Sam, the janitor is caught stealing and pulls a gun on Jay, who, in a moment of distraction, knocks out Sam and calls the police. Shortly after, Jay heads to meet his friend Elliot, as Jay discusses the list and felt bad for thinking his friend could even be a spy. Just then, their attention is turned to a bank robbery, as Jay turns into the Flash and does battle with Atom Smasher, but underestimates his opponent's capabilities, getting knocked out. Sometime later, Jay wakes up in Elliot's place, quickly rushing back out to face Atom Smasher, arriving in time to save a woman. Fearing for his friend, Elliot follows Jay onto the scene and arrives to help, as well as John Fox appearing in a hat and trench coat. But during the battle, John's chronometer vest gets damaged, transporting him to another time as Elliot pulls the plug on Atom Smasher's pack. Chapter 1 closes with Elliot being taken away in an ambulance, but otherwise alright, Atom Smasher getting loaded into a police car, and Jay giving a statement to the press. Which now leads us into Chapter 2 titled Captives of the Atom Smasher, as this story begins with Barry Allen running on his cosmic treadmill, attempting to perfect the device so that he'll be able to travel through time. After hours of testing, Barry checks the clock and realizes that all of the clocks had stopped working due to his research, and knows that he's running late for a date with Iris as he rushes to meet her. At this time, Manfred Moda is working on an atomic device, remembering his time in prison after losing to Garrick Flash, counting the years until he would meet the Flash again, and goes over his plan to fill the city with lethal radiation, and renames himself Professor Fallout. Back with Barry, he and Iris arrive at the restaurant when Barry realizes that he's magnetic, with the door swinging open and hitting Iris, followed by the silverware in the restaurant sticking to Barry, who changes into his Flash costume while in the restroom, deciding that he can fix the issue back at the lab and then get back to Iris. However, during his run over to the lab, Barry comes across Professor Fallout and his giant atom containing a neutron bomb, with John Fox among the crowd as the villain demands all of the money from every bank in Central City. The Flash rushes in but is blasted by Professor Fallout, knocking him unconscious, in which the villain takes him and drives off with his captive. Around this time, the banks decide to cave into the demands of Professor Fallout, who watches the news of his victory as the Flash is being held on a simulated atom, preventing him from moving. Professor Fallout then takes his leave as Barry figures out that the villain has no plans to disarm the bomb and vibrates his body in order to escape. The Flash blacks out momentarily, but recovers in enough time to race in and take out Professor Fallout. Shortly after the battle, John Fox quickly rushes towards the Flash, but just as he grabbed his attention, he's once more snatched from time, with this chapter concluding with Barry Allen returning to his date with Iris. Which brings us to Chapter 3 titled Co-Fusion, which begins with Wally West exercising when he gets a call from a creditor, followed by a woman frantically running into his apartment, begging for help as she tells him that her name is Nadine and how she was dating Professor Fallout, who escaped from prison, stole equipment to make a new suit, and killed one of his henchmen. To which all of these actions led to her conclusion that Professor Fallout was insane, and then she decided to go to the Flash for help. Wally then takes her, passing John Fox on the way through the hallway, where outside he ends up getting blasted by Professor Fallout. Wally does his best, but is outmatched by the villain, who then reveals his already known identity to the public. Enraged at the notion of fighting an amateur Flash, he discards Wally, who quickly escapes to Elysian Fields nuclear facility to get more information on Professor Fallout's tech. There, Wally is informed by Dr. Carlotta Moreau that Dr. Ronald Fisher was the fusion expert, at which point the Flash races off to find the man, who now owns a bar, and enlists his help to stop Professor Fallout as he takes him back to the city and yet again is hit hard. Wally shakes it off and finds a small little pebble that had come from Professor Fallout, and then sees Dr. Moreau show up. He's then informed that the small pebble is iron, and from that concluded how the suit was powered, and if the hydrogen pressure in the suit were lowered, the reaction would stop instantly. Wally takes this information and spins faster than he ever has, and launches the iron pebble like a bullet, piercing Professor Fallout's suit, which causes a chain reaction with the content of the suit opening the street beneath the villain, where he sinks. With the threat past, Wally's attention turns to John Fox, who once again is out of time, as he's transported once more. Which now brings us to the conclusion, called Generations Finale, as this chapter begins once again in 2645 AD, where John Fox is being pulled back to his time as Central City is under attack by a now mutated and monstrous Manfred Moda. John crashes into the lab and discovers his co-workers are dead, along with his mission having been a failure, as they now have no heroes to help them fight. That is, until he discovers that he has super speed, most likely gifted from the tachyon radiation. He races toward the Flash Museum and fashions a new suit made out of all of the past Flash costumes. The new Flash rushes in to do battle with Moda, who is enraged at the sight of another Flash. John Fox continues to be knocked around when he remembers the cosmic treadmill, in which he lures Moda in and begins running, opening a gateway through time to 50 billion AD, where he launches Moda out of the time stream and then slowing himself back to normal, while Moda floats in the vastness of space. Fox runs out of the museum to look upon the statues of the past Flashes before the book begins to wrap up at the Flash Day Carnival, where he gets his own statue, immortalizing him among the heroes of the past. And definitely for sure, the Flash Special Issue #1 was a pretty fun read. And one of the things that I really liked is that all of the stories were basically written and drawn to reflect the period that they came from. Each character felt very reminiscent of their time period, and this book as a whole really does feel like a celebration of the Flash legacy. Like Jay Garrick, he feels very timeless, he's full of hope and optimism that makes him very enjoyable to read. And it was great to see Barry Allen as a scientist using his mind in order to really think through all of his problems. And then of course you have Wally West, who at this time still feels very much like he's in the shadow of his mentor and predecessor, Barry Allen, so that when he actually did triumph over Professor Fallout, it felt very satisfying. And of course you have the two characters that were present within every single story, with John Fox, the time traveler, and as well as Manfred Moda, aka Atom Smasher, and Professor Fallout. We get to see Moda becoming older, crazier, really develop his hate for the Flash, as we see his evolution from Atom Smasher to Professor Fallout to giant radiation monster in the future. And of course, John Fox traveling throughout time, seeing the Flash in different periods, and really feeling like he's being inspired by all of these, so that when he does become the Flash, as this is overall more his origin story, which felt like a satisfying conclusion. Overall, I think the story is quite solid, and I'm gearing up for The Flash Annual #4. And I'll see you in part 2 of The Flash by Mark Waid, Book 1. And if you like this video, I'd love it if you'd smash that like button, share it with some friends, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and ring that notification bell for more comic book content. And if you're wondering what to watch next, consider one of these 2 videos, or check out my Flash Volume 5 playlist right up here. Alright, take care, have a great day, and as always, stay geeky.